Hello, welcome along everyone to Revalidation Essentials with the CILIP Scotland PRSOs. Delighted that you can all join us and can see that we've got people attending from all over today, which is fantastic. I'm Sean McNamara, I'm the Director of CILIP Scotland. We have Kirsten McQuarrie and Leah Higgins, other members of the CILIP Scotland team here, who and we'll be keeping an eye on the chat and helping out with today. There's captions available. You can turn them on or off at the bottom of your screen. As always, leave your cameras off or on, depending on what you prefer. Fine to leave it on. If you get any challenges with bandwidth, do turn it off, because that may help a little bit. If you do want to just keep yourselves in mute, that would be fantastic as well. And if you have any problems at all throughout, then please just stick that in the chat, and one of the team will look into what's going on. Equally, if you have any questions, we will have time for questions at the end. But if you do have questions throughout the session that pop into your head, put them in the chat. We'll keep a note of them, and then we can put them to the presenters at the end. And just to introduce those presenters, we're very lucky to have two fantastic professional registration support officers in Scotland, Elena Focardi and Jill Black, and they will be taking people through Revalidation Essentials today. So I will now pass over. I think, Jill, are you kicking off today? Okay, so thank you everyone for joining us, and we hope you enjoy the session.
Okie dokie. Hello, everybody. I'm Jill, and we are just going to chat about revalidation today. We are planning on speaking a bit about the way it works, and then we're hoping that everybody will have a chance to actually start either to download the templates that we're about to talk about, or if you've already done so, to start thinking about the CPD that you might actually focus on during a submission, and for people who are really far ahead, really crack on and do some writing. So that is the plan. So first step is revalidation implies that you have already successfully achieved certification, chartership, or fellowship. This is the next step. So first of all, well done. Woo! This is absolutely a big deal. The idea behind revalidation is that achieving certification, chartership, or fellowship is not the end of your professional registration journey. It was really just the beginning. So it's not a box you tick and then move on. It is something that sees you through your professional life. So whether it is revalidating whether it's for an annual appraisal, whether it is a target that you have set yourself, or whether you just really want to get your own professional continuing personal development up to date and really focusing on your career and your future. So that is, although you may feel that getting the chartership, the successful certification, chartership, or fellowship, of course it's a huge deal and it is wonderful, but it is the beginning. So we hope that you will think about revalidation in the future. So let's try and move forward. Now what? Revalidate, yay! So today is why revalidate, then it's the process behind it, what counts as CPD, how to log your CPD, and the template, there's actually two of them, and how to complete them, not it. Okay, so why revalidate? I mean, you all relax, you're like, I've just chartered or completed my successful submission. Can I not just have a wee break? Well, we believe that revalidation, although it is not at all compulsory, there is no requirement for revalidation, but we believe it proves so valuable for every member of CILIPS because it can demonstrate your commitment to your career, you can gain recognition, you get your the revalidation dates on the professional list of members. It tells you when everybody last revalidated. It helps you to continue to be a reflector practitioner. Now, this is absolutely fantastic for any kind of job applications, for any kind of annual reviews, anything where you'll have to do answering questions in a reflective manner. If you are continuing to work along your on your CPD logs, building up your reflective practitioner basis, then this is going to be so valuable to you in all these different areas. It helps you keep up to date with changes in the professional landscape. It can help you keep a very sort of open mind as to where you want your career to go next. And of course, it helps you log your CPD. Now, all of these we think are really valuable. And you do, as I say, get recognition by getting the dates on. So if you were, say, going to a new job interview and say, well, yes, I chartered 5 years ago, but I only just revalidated last year, so I'm really up to date with everything. The revalidation process. Now, almost everything we tell you today is going to be based on the information that we can find at CILIP.org UK page revalidation. We'll have a wee look at that in a second. That link is live, so we can show you that. And I'm pretty sure we'll be sending these slides round later. So those links, you can just click through from there. The process is free. You can do it annually. What we ask of you is that you complete 20 hours of CPD and you use the templates to help you reflect on how that CPD has developed your skills and knowledge that meet those 3 assessment criteria. Now, we'll all be horrifyingly aware if you've completed a successful submission for chartership, for certification, or for fellowship. Everybody will be very aware of the 3 assessment criteria. We will be mentioning them later, just as a reminder. But just to emphasize that this process is once again reflective practitioner. You have to use reflective writing in your submission. And this is a lot more straightforward than the previous submissions in your professional registration journeys because there's actually a template. And you download and complete the relevant template. There's one for the KM process and there's one for the general process. And so you just complete the template that works for you. Now, you don't have to do it annually on the dot, but that is the sort of time period that we suggest. Right, I'm going to pass over to Elena for a second, who will chat to you about CPD.
Sure. So, as Jill has said, revalidation, you have to do at least 20 hours of CPD, and you're like, oh no, what am I going to do? 20 hours is a lot. We can guarantee you almost at 99.9% you already have more than 20 hours done for your CPD, because what is considered CPD, what is considered for the CPD is basically everything that you already do at work. So probably events, meetings, participating in discussions, even things like reading an article from the Information Professional magazine or from the many journals that you have available with your CILIP membership. So you already have 99.9%. You already have the 20 hours done. Should you not have those 20 hours done already, you can definitely find a way to boost your CPD material. So for example, what counts as CPD? If we can go to the next slide, sorry, Jill. I didn't show my. So for example, you can already do things when at work. You can, again, read articles from the Information Professional journal. You can read articles from the various journals that are available with your CILIP membership. But also there are many webinars, and you probably already know these from your certification or chartership or fellowship work that you're already done for the professional registration, you know that there is the e-learning hub on the CILIP webinar, on the CILIP website, and you have available all the webinars or the short courses, and so that counts as CPD. That counts towards the 20 hours. Also, in case, obviously, we are all short of time because we work, we try to have a social life, we try to have a personal life. So obviously, we can be a bit short on time. So even if you manage to get a conversation with your colleagues about relevant topics, obviously related to your work, to libraries, to the information professions in general, that counts as CPD. So basically, you can also, again, as you're a member of CILIP, you have access to the special interest groups. You can volunteer again, and you know, if you have special interest or some kind of interest, you can, even outside work, if you're volunteering outside work, that can count as CPD, especially if they are related. So for example, if you're volunteering at a what is that is called, like at a school board of committee, things like these, that can count.
Parents Teachers Association, that type of
Parents Teacher Association, that can count as well. So you have so many options, really so many options. Participate in social media discussions as well. You have really many options to bump up your CPD, your 20 hours. Also, it's different from your professional registration process, so you don't have to dedicate equal time to the 3 areas. You can easily do 10 hours of CPD work in the first criterion. You can do 4 hours in the second criterion and 6 hours in the third criterion. So you don't have to give equal weight to the 3 criterion. Main thing is that you cover them all. And again, as Jill was saying, you have to be reflective. Again, always be reflective, always be reflective. There should be an acronym for the information professionals. But yeah, you can easily, again, you probably have already the 20 hours clocked in. But in case you don't, these are all ideas. And obviously, if you have any questions and if you are in doubt, if something can constitute a part of your CPD, just let us know and we're going to help you. Jill?
Cool. So once you've done your 20 hours, or at least identified your 20 hours, then what you have to be doing is put these down in a log. Now, I'm a huge fan of the CPD log because actually it was part of my personal route to chartership. I already had a general chartership, and I used the KM conversion process to also get my KM chartership. So part of that was you had to create a training log. And the one that was in the revalidation pack is really helpful. So this is the one that I have on the screen just now. I have simply taken from the template documents that we are going to show you. I haven't created this. It's not, you don't have to come up with your own. This is entirely prepared for you by CILIP themselves. So there are a couple of tips, however, that I'd like to sort of highlight. The first thing is download the template today. even if you're not even sure that you are going to do it, download the template today and start using it for your own general career purposes, because you'll be amazed at how useful it is for things like, as I said before, job interviews, annual reviews, appraisals, those kind of things. The second thing is do it as you go along. Write your reflection as soon as you undertake any type of CPD activity. If you're keeping it for your own personal use, you can obviously put in non-library and information service type training, it's a type CPD, but if you are using it purely for the purpose of revalidation, remember that those 20 hours have to be related to, it doesn't specifically say the PKSB, but I would use the PKSB areas as a kind of guide of, if I can't fit this into one of the PKSB areas, maybe it's not relevant enough. The vital thing is that it has to fit into one of the criteria. Now, as Elena said, the criterion column, really important, because it will highlight if you haven't hit one of them, but you don't have to hit them equally. So say you're totting up your hours and you've got 6 hours for criterion 3, you've got 10 hours for criterion 1, you don't have to even these out. You don't have to go looking. If, however, you've got some for 3 and some for 1, but you don't have any at all for 2, that's when your log will highlight to you that you've really got to go looking for some other type of training, because you do have to hit every single one of them for at least part of your log. And then the all-important reflection. So we'll come on in a second to one of the tools that you will be very familiar with, because you've all done a submission before with reflective writing, but it never hurts to remind you. But the vital thing is to reflect on the activity as soon as you've done it. If you wait till you're about to hand in your form and you start thinking about all the CPD that you have done over the past sort of 11-month period before you submit, you're going to be reflecting with the benefit of where you are now. What you want to be doing is be a reflective practitioner at the time that you did that development activity. So there's no point waiting for 11 months and then trying to remember how that made you feel. I mean, it is possible, but it's much more difficult. What I would really suggest is that as soon as you've done that reflective, even if you just jot down on your little log there some immediate responses to it, some bullet points, just little things to trigger when you're coming to put it in proper language later. It would only take 5 minutes at the end of any session, and I would really, really recommend it. Otherwise, it could get quite samey because you'll be talking about it from the perspective of where you are now. Okay. But yeah, that revalidation log, you do not have to create yourself. It is available in the template document that we're going to show you. Now, we'll just zoom through this because everybody should be very aware of reflective writing, because you would have to have done it to get your successful professional registration in the first place. We've got the what, so what, now what. The describe your event, what did you notice, what stood out, so what are the implications, how do they affect you and your service and your users, and now what. The now what is really important. It's always about your thoughts, your feelings, it's about your responses to things. And that's why it's much easier to do it on your log at the time that you'd sat it, because then those were your actual feelings at the time. Absolutely vitally, all your training log activities must be related to one of the 3 criteria. So we've just popped them up here to remind you, but on the website that we're going to have a wee look at in a minute, these are listed for you again. They're also listed on the back of the template form, because we're trying to make this as simple, but we don't want you to have to go looking for things. So that form, that template is really very important. So it does say all 3 criteria has to be covered within the 20 hours. Some CPD activity must be shown for each personal performance, organizational context, and the wider professional, but you can have it spread out in whichever way you want. Now, please note that the criteria are slightly different for the knowledge management route. They are tailored to come at the issues from a KM perspective. So that is why there are 2 different forms. The template for the KM revalidation focuses the criteria from a KM perspective. So please make sure you have downloaded the correct form. The forms, here we are. So you find the forms by going to the CILIP page called Revalidation, which we will show you in a sec. And there are 2 templates. Make sure you identify the fact that there are 2 templates. Please download the one for your route and complete it. And then here we go. We've got this nice form. The highlighted text is, of course, example text. You must delete that when you are overwriting your own activities. It's just to show you how it's done. It's got very clear instructions as to how to name it, and then how you can upload it via the website again. Oops. So it's very straightforward. The submission is, again, on the website. It's got the very clear way of telling how to upload it and clicking on the Submit Now button. Now, just while we're here, I do want to go onto that website. So I'm just going to click here. I'll pop that up on the screen as well, just to prove to everybody that all the information is very easily accessible. Now, can I maybe pop this in the chat? Is that a possibility, I wonder? If I pop
Yeah, Jill,
this...
absolutely. It's in the chat already. I'll just
Oh, you've already popped that in?
Yes, so
right,
please do follow along, everyone.
So what I'd like everybody to do today, even if they are not convinced that they would like to revalidate, I think it would be really valuable if you can to click on either the professional registration revalidation template or the knowledge management professional registration revalidation template and download one or other of those forms. Now, what I ended up doing was I copied that table and popped it into my own document, because then I could just have my own training log, which I could then use for all my different purposes. But obviously you could just download the template and just keep adding to that as you go along. It's really valuable to keep. And as I say, that log you could just copy as you in a oneer and paste into it, which is exactly what I did to pop it into these slides. So it is really easy. I popped it into the slides and made it look pretty. Not that the people who did it didn't make it look pretty to start with, but that's how I got that already. So I do reckon it's really valuable if everybody could click on that link today and download that. Now, just so we've talked about submitting it, wanted to just say, once you submit, you're then put into a assessment process, obviously. Really wanted to emphasize the fact that if you're not successful, do not worry. You will not lose your your post-nominals, your chartership or your certification or your fellowship is safe. Those are not being changed. All that would happen would be that you would, if it wasn't successful, it would just say, the assessors would come back and say, we don't think that you've maybe done enough reflective writing, or we don't think that you've hit the 20 hours or what have you. Your current level of qualification with CILIP would be unaffected. So there's no downsides to doing the revalidation. It doesn't put your post-nominals or your qualifications at risk, but you could get the benefits from having really thought about your continuing professional development, and also having the ability to get your revalidation date certified on your CILIP log and CILIP membership list. And when you were, for example, on your socials or on your CV, you could say chartered X number of years ago and then revalidated. It was very useful to me when I came back from a couple of mat leaves, for example, because I chartered, I'm going to say decades ago at this point, so that seems quite a long time. But I was able to say, okay, I chartered back in the day, but I have revalidated, and so I have got the requisite up-to-date knowledge and I know what's going on in the world. So we think it's a really valuable thing. Cool. Right. Any questions?
Thank you, Jill. That was fantastic. Thank you. Yeah, we've got a couple of questions. I think we may have covered them in the chat, but I'll just come to them here. So the first one is, who does the assessing? I don't know if you can summarize that.
That will be the same as assessment committee, the assessors.
That's right. Lucia asked just around losing the fee, but obviously as it's revalidation, there would be no fee, and that's.
Oh yeah, it's totally, it's just a free service. The only cost to you would be, I guess, downloading the form and resubmitting, but it's not even printed off. It's just a electronic process.
Yeah, absolutely. Susie just highlights that the template is really useful. Use it throughout the year and adds things as and when they do CPD activities, and that's definitely, I think, really good advice, isn't it? To try and just do it as a recurring thing. You know, whether you do it once a week, once a month, some system, so that you're adding to it at a regular basis. I think would be quite good advice, wouldn't it?
The only thing I would say is, if you were thinking, say if you're not already at fellowship level, say if you were on a certification level or a chartership level, and you thought, I might one day want to go for a higher level of professional registration, I would really recommend adding in a further column, which would be to add in a PKSB area, because if you can align your CPD with a PKSB area, then you could easily turn that into a submission for a wider professional registration submission in the future. That's the only thing I think this form is particularly missing.
Thank you. Yep, good advice. Questions coming in thick and fast now, so I'll go through them as they come in. So thank you. If anyone else has got questions, feel free to add them, or if you prefer to put your hand up, we will come to you as well, whatever you'd prefer. Sally asks, so can you submit at any time of the year?
Oh yes, that's absolutely fine. It is, although they say annual, it's more of a kind of, that is the most regular you could do it. We wouldn't really recommend doing more than annual. So just whenever you are ready, you submit, and then 12 months later, you would look to doing it again.
Great, thank you. So yes, do you have any comments on the fact that only a small proportion of revalidation submissions are reviewed, so you don't always get feedback?
You don't always get feedback, that is true. I don't know. I'm not on the assessors panel, so I'm afraid I can't actually speak to the assessment process. We just get told what we're told.
But that is the case, yeah.
We just advise on the process leading up to it. I mean, I think it's very rare for people to get negative feedback. That's all I would say.
Yeah, it's a more straightforward process than some of the other professional registration. Louise has asked, does the assessment process take the same length of time as normal professional registration assessments? How long do you have? You may not be able to speak to process there, but do you have a rough estimate of how long people wait to hear back for revalidation?
Now that, I'm afraid, when I did it, it was much quicker. I think it was within a couple of months. However, I think I would imagine that the process may have been hit by some of the recent extensions in time that the assessors have been hitting, so I wouldn't be able to promise that.
Yeah.
I do know that they have recently trained up a new bundle of assessors, so hopefully those backlogs will start moving quicker now.
Great, yeah. I think CILIP tend to not put too many specific timescales in this because it can be affected. A lot of this work relies on volunteers. You know, obviously Jill and Ellen are volunteers for us as PRSOs, and it's the same with the assessors. So things can vary, but I think CILIP certainly try and work through it as quickly as they can. But it can be affected by the shortages of people, or as Jill saying, hopefully they've got some more coming on now. Patricia asks, can you would it be worth having a mentor like Chartership, or would that not be appropriate for this process?
You wouldn't require a mentor for this process, but we would always suggest that having a mentor in your career is a beneficial relationship to have. But it wouldn't be, I don't even think there's somewhere on the form to say what's your mentor's name or anything. If you had a mentor for your original professional registration process, you may wish to try and continue that relationship, but that would be between yourselves in a kind of more personal contract.
Yeah, absolutely. And we did have a career mentorship scheme outside the professional registration for people that wanted to take on a mentor. You know, we do still have people that are willing to take people on. If anyone here would like a non-professional registration career mentor, then do get in touch with us, because we could see if anyone's available to take you on. But that would not be for this process. It would, but it may help you gather some of those kind of, you know, some of those thoughts around reflecting on things that might help your revalidation rather than specifically help you directly with the revalidation.
One of the great things about having a mentor is that it can really help with your wider professional context, especially if that mentor is not within your own workplace. You can sometimes get a really good perspective, or you can even just hang out and have a coffee with them, or you can go and have a visit of their library service or whatever.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, right, just having a look here. I think I've perhaps covered all the questions that are here. Is anyone who's not put a question in the chat got a question they'd like to put their hand up for, or ask verbally, or even just offer any advice that might help?
If nobody has questions, we were hoping that if people, because there, as you can see, it's quite a straightforward process. What we were hoping that you might be able to do in the next sort of 20 minutes would be to have a look at that form, download the form if you haven't already, the template. But we'd really like you to try and think back to an activity that you've done in the last month or so. We genuinely do believe that everybody will be in their workplace doing some variety of CPD regularly anyway. And we would like everyone to think of at least one activity and try and note down at least one block on this template, maybe even one or two. Try and think of things that you've done recently and try and come up with some reflective writing for those. Because we think if you leave this session and you've already started filling out this form, then you will be like 50% of the way to getting it done. So if anybody would be available, then Elena and I will stay on the call. You can switch your cameras off, and then if you have any questions, you can just pop your cameras back on or put your hand up or just start speaking. We will listen out. And that would be really helpful. If, however, that you are short for time, as Elena said earlier, we're all time poor, then we are more than happy for you to drop off the call when we're doing the writing session. But please do get in touch, and it's really not intimidating. So we'd very much like you to have a go.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, please do stay if you can. We can do that for the next 20 minutes. A quick plug as well, we have our professional registration power-ups that Kirsten runs regularly, which a similar thing, you know, if you're doing any kind of professional registration, you can come along to them and work on it. So you know, if you were doing revalidation, that would be perfectly valid for that as well. Now, before we just kind of end, for people who are not staying and then move into that 20 minutes, I've just got one one question there from Patricia is there a mentor sharing facility in CILIP? Now, there is the mentor list, which is for professional registration, which you can access. So if you're signed up to professional registration, you'll be able to log into the area of the CILIP website and get the list of mentors, and then you can find one for that. CILIP wouldn't have a list of mentors for revalidation because obviously they wouldn't say that you would necessarily need one for that, but you would be able to get a mentor if you are doing another bit of professional registration. And as we said, we do have a career mentorship scheme. CILIP don't have an equivalent scheme, but CILIP Scotland do have a career mentorship scheme. We've got a few people who volunteered to be career mentors. And as I said, if anyone wants to put in touch with one of them, you can manage it yourself, but we just do the introduction to guide you into that. But yeah, that was something we set up independently because we had we had a work placement. There was a new professional. They recommended that for new professionals or any professionals at a different stage of their career, that an informal mentorship would be useful. So we set it up. It's had a few people interested. So yeah, absolutely. So although that's not elsewhere, if you are a CILIP Scotland member, you can access that and do speak to CILIP England or Wales if you would like to see that elsewhere. Okay, I'll stop talking and now I'll say, so if you are not staying, then please feel free to leave. But if you can stay, then do that little bit of revalidation that Jill said. We'll not be asking anyone to share. I think there will be perhaps time, Jill, if people want to share or ask questions, but no one will be made to share what they have. So do take this chance.
What we should do is maybe if you could turn sort of focus back to us in about 15 minutes, then that would be great. And we'll just sort of be here for any questions and we'll be here all throughout as well.